starting to wonderful people who agreed to share their knowledge with us on the topic, who will introduce themselves today. Before we start that, I would like to introduce myself as the host and facilitator of this session. My name is Linda Butsia. I'm from Regenesis Business School, and I am privileged to be part of this conversation today. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask each and every panelist to introduce themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could just give us your name in full, where you work from, where you work at, not work from, we all know that you are in Nairobi, Mr. Vikram, within the Kenyan environment. if you could give us a background as to who you are, where you are from, and then also, if I might ask you, as far as the company that you work from, you can just give us a brief introduction, specifically because of our wonderful listeners, audio members, and those who are listening via the live recording might not all have the knowledge of the banking sector industry within the Kenyan environment. So if you could just give us a brief background as to the company that you work for too. So, shall we ask Ma'am Joyce, if you would introduce yourself, please. Thank you so much and welcome to today's session.
All right, thank you so much, Linda. Good to see everyone. My name is Joyce Gitari. I work for Virtual Pay International as the Group Head of People and Culture. Virtual Pay International is a payment service company, so we're in the payment service space. So what we do is we provide a payment gateway for our clients or our merchants to receive their payments, particularly within Africa, but our clients are all over the world. So if it's card payments, if it's online payments, if it's alternative payments, mobile payments, we facilitate that. We also have different offerings in the market. We have a card present solution, which is the POS PDQ service, where you're able to make your payments with your card present. Then we also have payment links. We have recurring payments, where you're able, if you're a client who processes recurring payment, like for example, if you're subscribers, household, and so on, you're able to use our platform to be able to receive your payments on a recurring basis. Yes, we have several products in the market. So I encourage you to take a moment, visit our website, get to learn a bit about us. We have a strong presence in Africa. We have an office in Dubai, in Mauritius, in Seychelles. We're headquartered in Kenya. And we have a presence in Israel and Cyprus. So that's us in a nutshell, Virtual Pay International. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joyce. When I opened your website this morning, the first words that struck me, or the first words that I saw, was fastest growing Pan-African payment service provider. So that was very impressive. Thank you so much. Joyce has been very modest. Joyce has over 20 years experience within the HR environment. So we're so looking forward to hearing what you are going to say about this future of HR in the digital age, and how we are going to overcome what some are seeing as challenges, but that most of us embrace as opportunities for the sector. Thank you so much, Joyce. It's wonderful to have you in the panel. If I may ask you to introduce yourself from HF Group PLC. Anna?
Thank you, Linda. I don't know if I'm audible. So my name is Anna Amasinda. I'm the current head of business banking at HFC. I have 17 years of banking experience, and I'm very passionate about women economic empowerment and having conversation, just helping people grow their careers and also supporting the community in whichever way I can. That's a passion that I have. If I may introduce HFC for those who don't know HFC, most people know HFC in Kenya as housing finance. So initially we started as housing finance many years ago. We're over 50 years old, and currently we're known as HF Group. So we have the group, and then part of the subsidiary, we have the HFC, which is the bank, and then we have HFBI, which offers the insurance subsidiary services. We also have the HF Foundation, and we had the HFDI, which deals with the property development and affordable housing projects in that space. So we are over 50 years offering banking, fully fledged commercial banking services, and specifically in the business space, we are very focused on the education sector, medical sector, trade and manufacturing, oil and gas, and we are more than happy to offer these services across the business segments. We are stationed in Kenya, so we are not yet outside Kenya, we are mostly in Kenya, and we're happy to partner with Regency now that you're set in office in Kenya to just see how best we can support the education sector and specifically the business segment at HFC. So it's a pleasure to have you all, and I look forward to the engagement.
Also look forward to speaking to you, and it was a pleasure reading what HF Group is doing and how they are supporting the community through housing finance. We all know the importance thereof and how important assets are in our lives, right? But we will have that conversation. We will have that conversation throughout today. And get to the importance of empowerment. I like what you said about empowerment as well. I see Esther has joined us. Welcome, Esther. Before you introduce us, I'm going to put you on the spot immediately. Hello, you here, talk. No, I will ask Margaret to introduce herself so that you can just make sure that you can hear us and that you are comfortable with your positioning. Margaret, if you would introduce yourself, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. I'm not sure who is joining. So my name is Margaret Kioko. I'm the head of HR in M-Pesa Africa. I've been in HR for the last say 15 years. Started as a consultant and now, in the mainstream HR. I think what I love about my job is creating sustainable organizations that are interlinked with the business strategy, and of course, ensuring that the organization has the right capabilities that they require to deliver their strategies, amongst many other things. So, from just understanding what M-Pesa Africa does, we are a joint venture that is owned by Safaricom and Vodacom. Our role is to develop standardized products and platforms for the African markets that have M-Pesa, and ensure, of course, if there are partnerships, we look for partnerships that cut across. From an M-Pesa perspective, also just supporting from a technical perspective. So generally, that's a high level of what we do. And what we say in M-Pesa Africa is that we are the most resilient, united, passionate, and energetic team that drives the business agenda. So thank you, and looking forward to this engagement today.
Thank you very much, Margaret. Definitely going to rely on you and Esther to talk to us exactly, all of these technical skills that it's required when it comes to, and Joyce, of course, when it comes to the environment that you work in, this mobile money, virtual pay environment that requires specific skills for us to do the jobs and to deliver the services that we deliver to the people. Esther, I would like you to introduce yourself. Esther from the United Nations, Sacco Bank. Esther, please feel free to introduce yourself. I've asked the panelists to introduce themselves and their names and surnames, as well as the organizations that they work in specifically, because the listeners might not all be from Kenya and need to understand the banking environment. And you definitely within a banking environment that might be foreign for South African listeners, but the Kenyan environment very much familiar with it. So Esther, if you do not mind to please introduce yourself. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where we are. My name is Esther Mailu. I've been in UN Sacco for close to 8 years, but in the profession, currently I'm the deputy CEO and the head of finance. I've been in finance, administration, and HR for the last 26 years. So I've gained quite a bit in those years. In UN Sacco, we are cooperative. In the Western world, they call them credit unions. And what we do is we take deposits from members and we advance them loans. Our essence is to grow the wealth of the members. But by supporting each other. And of course, what we intend to do and our vision in UN Circle, we want to be the financial service provider of choice. We have membership from the entire world, but we only have our office in Kenya, and thank God for the technology, because with technology we find ourselves everywhere and we're able to transact with our members at any time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. Esther is also being very modest with her many, many years of experience. And I would say too much because we don't want to be too candid with the age around right, Esther? But Esther has wonderful experience within the finance sector. And I think what is so wonderful and rich about all of you, this experience that you have, the years that you have within the sector, can tell us about the changes, the changes that we know it and how it was experienced previously. So I'm genuinely looking forward to what each and every one of you have to share in this environment. Irene, I see that you have joined. Irene Jael Otiende. So Irene is bringing a wonderful perspective as well to this panel, in that Irene is very much client facing as well within the sector. Irene, if you would like to introduce yourself and just let us know where you are and what you are doing. Irene? Maybe Irene left a little message. Irene just joined as well. Yes. Irene, we cannot hear you. Please interject when, or put your mic on. Maybe one of the events people will give you a call and just make sure why we cannot hear you. So, ladies and gentlemen, whilst we sort that out, let us, and Irene, please, once you have access to your mic, please just let us know that you were there, and I will give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. So, ladies, one of the things that struck me as I was preparing for this meeting is, number one, and we have to say it, is that we have a panel of banking experts that are women. So I want to congratulate everyone on this panel for the achievements that you have already achieved within your work environment, being who you are and doing what you have done. Also, just before we start and before I start firing the questions, I would just like to thank and introduce our CEO, Mr. Bhupesh, who will introduce himself as well now and welcome you from his side as well. I'm going to give him a chance, and then also just all the other names that you see is the background, the people in the background helping us to make sure that this webinar goes smoothly. So thank you everybody for being there to support all of us. Bhupesh, if you would like to just say hello to everybody and introduce yourself as well.
All right, thank you so much, Linda. It's an absolute pleasure to be sharing stage with all these wonderful, successful ladies, and I am so excited. You know, with our motto of awakening potential and women empowerment. You know, it's such a delight to be a part of this panel. So myself, Bhupesh, I head out the emerging markets in the capacity of CEO for Regenesis Business School. I have had the opportunity to work with some of the good, great universities across the globe, and Regenesis is my home now, and absolutely delighted and excited to take on this new role, new responsibility. In my personal capacity, I'm an engineering graduate. I'm master's in sales and marketing. I'm also a qualified lawyer, and currently taking care of emerging markets for Regenesis Business School. Luckily, I am present in Kenya, and I look forward to connect with all you wonderful professionals in person at some point in time. I'm really excited to hear your point of views in terms of course, a lot of discussions we're going to have. And I'm also thankful for you to take time out because, there are hundreds of young professionals who are watching this live and who are going to watch this later on in the recorded fashion also. And, it's such a great opportunity for them. They really look forward to people like you to resolve some of their, day-to-day problems.
Thank you very much, Bupes. I think, yes, that is so important, is that we do make sure that the experience that we have, we share it and pay it forward to the generations around us. Irene, I just want to check and make sure whether you can hear us or whether you have access to your microphone yet. Nothing yet. Okay. So, ladies, I am going to start this conversation, and I think one of the statements made when this whole process started and when this whole advertising and marketing for this was that in the next 5 years, 50% of all banking tasks will be automated, is what we started this conversation with when we marketed the idea. And that the banking industry is at the forefront of the transformation when it comes to automation and using, I mean, the fintech companies around the chair today or around the table today can give us more information about that too. I think with this advancement and transformation always is an element of fear, right? An element of fear of people who are not familiar with it, and people who are fearful about technological advances, and the doomsday speakers out there says that technology is going to work technology advances is going to ensure that the human element within an environment is not there anymore. And maybe Irene, once we can hear you, can still talk about that human element, as she is still working within a bank, customer focused and seeing that. But I would like to start this conversation, perhaps as you are all HR executives and all within the HR environment as well. What, in your view, do you see the key challenges of the talent in your organization, or of the human capital within your organization? What are the key challenges within the sector for this new digital age, or this new digital period that we are moving into? Is it still new? Maybe we should start the conversation about that. Is there anyone who would like to start the conversation, or shall I call on someone? Yes, Esther, please, if you would like to give us the opportunity of your wisdom.
Yes, thank you. I'll be putting my video off when I'm not talking, because I traveled somewhere, so that's why I'm picking the call from the car. Now, when it comes to the challenges that I see, especially in this current era, we are in a situation where we have at least 3 generations in the workplace. We have the Generation X, we have the Y, and we have the Generation Z. Now, of these 3 generations, people have different technological advancement and know-how from the 3 different generations. Yet, we have to find a way of working with the 3, because there are those who are technological savvy, others are not, but all of them are equally important. And especially you find some, by way of having experience and stayed in organizations for long, they have a background which the Generation Z may not have, even though they are more tech savvy. So for me, I see that as one of the key challenges. And then the other key challenge I see is when it comes to data. In Kenya, we just had a law, of course it's being enforced right now, the data protection. It wasn't there previously until it was enacted in 2019. Now, when you look at the data protection, there's a lot of information and there's a lot of data which is being kept by organizations, and now controlling that data to ensure that it doesn't get to the wrong hands. Yet we have so many users of that very same data, and you can only control human beings so much. So sometimes you're not quite in control of what will move out, because we've seen situations where we see memos which would rather look like very confidential, flying in WhatsApp and all that. So for me, I find data protection, it is a key challenge that HR would have to deal with, because it can give a huge exposure to institutions. And we have seen, especially where institutions are being fined, the fines are crazy. They are really, really humongous. There are many others, but I'm sure my colleagues will bring them up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. I think it's the generation gap in data protection is, I think it's a worldwide issue, and the generation gaps, although we describe them so perfectly with X, Y, Z, wherever they are now, is severe because of this digital era and this digital and the transformation that we have to experience, and maybe also because what we went through within the COVID environment, that the generation gap is really a gap and something that you as HR professionals need to fill. So I was wondering, Anna, if you would like to add to that, if you'd like to talk about the challenges within your environment, within the housing finance industry or within HF Group.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. So for HFC, we call ourselves HFC now. So it's been a journey of over 50 years. So the issue of digital is actually glaring to us as an area that has really affected the HR profession and also the hiring managers. I'm not in the HR, but I'm one of the hiring managers in my department. And one of the things is being 50 years of age as an institution, then you have people who've worked here for over 30, 40 years. People almost retiring on the job, and people who were there when we were introducing Windows 10, 8, and the others. So we, as has been mentioned, we have these generations that were there before, and then we have this new coming into the market, the Gen Zs, who are so digital savvy that they actually want to dictate how work should be done in terms of the shift of time. So one of the things is, as a bank, we realized it took us longer to move into the digital space. The industry changed faster than us. So in 2018 is when we actually started our transformation as a digital bank. And I would say one of the things we had to do first is do like a baseline survey to know how many within our population resources that were actually digital savvy. And we realized less than 40% were actually in that space. So we had to invest a lot in training, in upscaling the team, even before thinking about the systems, the processes, and the policies that govern how we operate. If you look at the banking industry, there's so much evolving, and it means if you don't catch up, then you're left out of most of the business space. Most customers today want to be served from the comfort of their houses. They want to just sit and do their account opening from there. They want to borrow loans from the comfort of their laptops and just finish most of the transaction on their mobile phones. So it means as a bank, then we had to move faster in terms of the capacity of our teams to be able to meet the changing environment, and investing in them. You had to weigh whether do you hire people who are already tech savvy, or do you start doing training of the existing resources? So there was a bargain we had to do as professionals in the banking space to just wonder if you have more than 60% who are not digital savvy, and you need to upscale them in a very short time in an effort to catch up with the industry, then you have to weigh whether to hire or train. So there was a compromise as an institution that we had to put in place. And some of the departments we just had to hire in the industry just to make sure that we have the right people for the jobs. If you're talking about digital financial solutions, then you have to get people who are already in that space, who understood what needs to be done in order to quickly turn around. So one of the things is to understand as an institution, where are you and where is the industry? So that as you gauge your teams in terms of their capacity, you also need to look at where is the industry at, where are they moving at, are you catching up, or are you thinking about the future and how you can be able to upskill yourselves and the resources within your institution to be able to match up to that. The other challenge with the different generations is if you look at the Gen Z or the current employable resources, we look at most of them want to just work for a year or two, actually 6 months. Within a year, they want to move. The older generation, they would work for you for life until retirement. So there's diversity in terms of the capacity, and the different roles then have to match with what you're looking for. So if you have very operational. You need sustainability in some of the institutional memory kind of works. Then you look at the generation that can stay for longer to actually work in some of those roles, and you would find if it is for places where you don't need so much investment, then you don't mind having those flexible kind of employees coming on board. So the demand for flexible hours came with the COVID, especially in Kenya. COVID-19 is actually what changed the banking industry to think about bringing on board flexible work hours, people working from home, others working remotely. To date, we have some departments that still enjoy that. There are some departments we struggle with, especially on the sales team, because of monitoring productivity from the house. So we've not yet moved that direction. So it's still a conversation. We are trying to figure it out. So I would say it's a beautiful time to work when there's a lot of transition happening in the banking industry. So a lot of conversation in terms of what we can do, and I'm happy to have this conversation with like-minded partners here to see what best we can employ, especially on productivity perspective. We are still struggling on that to know how does somebody make sure that you're productive from the house, So it's a conversation that is still open to us. Thank you, Linda.
And I thank you so much. You have definitely touched on so many aspects that I think we all want to touch on as well. Upskilling, reskilling, recruiting. And if we start talking recruiting, we talk global recruiting, right? Because we're now competing in a global market because of what you were saying. You can sit in your house anywhere and work for anyone, right? So that doesn't just mean that we are global entities, but it also means that we as professionals are competing globally, global skills, right? So that to me is very valuable, and the monitoring of productivity. I'm sure there's advice in the group amongst us as to what works for them and how we make sure that people are as productive at home, but also keep the work-life balance, because I think that's also, you've got the flip side there. You've got people who use the opportunity as to not be productive, and people who will only work, because they must in front of their computer, they can quickly answer this email and quickly do this now quickly as well. And when they see the whole day has been taken up by work. So that's definitely something that we need to talk about, work-life balance as well, but also how do we monitor and motivate towards productivity within a virtual workplace, because that's what we're experiencing here. Joyce, I would love to hear from you from virtual pay as an advancement and a transformed organization already. Maybe you can comment about the transition, how it happened for you, where Anna said it took them a little bit time to move with what customers want. Joyce, if you would like to put your 2 cents in about the challenges within the sector.
All right, thank you, Linda. Unlike Esther's team, and Anne's team, who are much older organizations, for us, we're a very relatively young organization. We're less than 10 years old. In fact, we just hit our 5-year mark recently. And so you can imagine, we were born right before COVID. And COVID was good to us, in as much as, there were the challenges associated with, managing people from home. We are a young organization with, our average age is around 38. So we're a relatively young organization. Yeah.
Wow.
So our challenges may not be so much in terms of getting to embrace the tech and the digital and those kinds of aspects. The challenges that I would say, especially from a HR hiring, recruitment, training perspective, would be in the change of the kind of jobs and roles that we are seeing. That you find that those are the roles that you need to fill, and vis-a-vis what is in the market and what people are trained for and what people want to do. So I still talked about the young people who, they're young, they're vibrant, they're going to join the market, and then you have the older workforce who are set in their ways and they don't change, and they're focused on what they've known for a long time. So the challenges for us, I would say, for example, in terms of regulation and compliance, we operate in a highly regulated space. So that means that we have to work hand in hand with our regulators, regulatory authorities, with traditional banking agencies and companies. And what that means is the kind of talent that we're looking for is people who don't have just one line of training or experience. So you'll find that you're not, even if, for example, if you're looking for tech, for example, hiring for tech, you want someone who has also the exposure of tech within the financial space, the banking space, the payment service landscape. If it is in terms of compliance, for example, you're not looking for traditional compliance roles. You're looking for someone who has, for example, AML training, someone who is has relevant qualifications for compliance, but also someone who understands compliance in a very dynamic sense, because that is the nature of our industry. In our industry, things are changing constantly. The government is now just getting to put in the regulations, to put in, just trying to understand how do we regulate, because also it's a very interesting space, because you'll find there are incidences of fraud. You want to deal with fraud, but you also want to encourage the businesses to thrive. So that's, you find that those are the challenges that I would see from my point of view.
Okay, so thank you so much, Joy. So the challenges for you seems to be the dynamic nature of the business that you are in. It is changing, and therefore requires your employees to change with it, and to learn and to grow and to be motivated towards it. And maybe that would, if your average age is 38, then that would explain why your company has grown to the fastest growing Pan-African payment service provider. As these people are not seeing these changes as with fear, they are seeing that as obstacles, which is that generation gap. I see that we have a Q&A comment as well. We're talking about generation gap, but also disruptive talent, which is also a very interesting comment that I would like us to reflect on. Disruptive challenge. What does that mean, and how do we make that part of our narrative as well? Margaret, as M-Pesa Africa, maybe you could link to what Joy said, or maybe you can share your views as the challenges within your environment. Margaret?
Yeah, thank you, Linda. So for us, the major one is, of course, talent war, and this is when we lose the critical talent that we need. And when you look at Kenya, and of course our staff also South Africa. So in Kenya, I think it was a bit hit because you had Google, Microsoft coming in, and we were losing all the critical technical kind of skills. So yes, in M-Pesa Africa, it's more from a fintech perspective, but I think that has been quite a hard one. What we did is, one, to review our pay and benefits skills, just to check whether we were in line, because remember, we were coming from a tech, a tech telco kind of skill. So we just went back to the market just to see, are our ranges or salary pay skills still aligned to the fintech. So that's one of the changes we did. But of course, again, we also looked at our ways of delivery. So we are bulk agile, and that's how we deliver. And based on that, of course, we also needed to relook at what kind of skills are critical for our environment. Meaning you want, like the T-shaped skills. So if you have a developer, you want a developer who can also do the operational support and the like. So there's training that we give to staff, but also when we are hiring, we try to look at that kind of skill. I think the other one that I'll mention is, of course, on ways of working. With the pandemic, we had to change our ways of working. So usually we do hybrid. So we have 3 days in the office, 2 days you can work from home. I think from a productivity perspective, Anna was mentioning on, how do you measure productivity? When it comes to Agile, it's a bit easy because you have the sprints that you have something that you have to deliver within a certain period of time. Of course, productivity is easy to measure where you have, skills that have very clear matrices. It can be a bit subjective in the likes of HR finance, but what I've seen is also the level of trust and conversations you do with your line managers also support that, because it's the agreement of this is what is supposed to be done, and you don't have to keep being followed. So we are not a huge team, so it also helps to just create that transparency and conversation. I think the other thing I've seen, because of, again, pandemic and a lot of the changes that are happening, both macro and micro, we've seen a lot of changes in the economic world. There's a role as HR we need to play from a change management. It hits our staff in different ways. While it's hitting the organization growth, say from a tax perspective, I think the employees also have to respond to it in very many ways. In Kenya, we have changes in, taxes, in their income tax. So all that, and then of course what happened during pandemic. So we also need to support with change management from a HR perspective, whether it's the restructuring or change in organization structures that we have to do, whether it's from a staff perspective, the mental and well-being that we need to support the teams in. I think that's critical, whether it's the leaders that we need to develop so that they support with the new business strategy that we are coming up with. In a nutshell, I think I'll mention those for now.
Thank you very much, Margaret. I think your words, talent war, it's the first time I've heard it, but it is so, it's so hitting the nail on the head, because that's what it's about, the war on talent. And I read, when I was reading, about your organizations on the website, I saw one of the institutions have a diaspora account, right? Which is an account for members, if I understand it correctly, Irene, which is an account for members that are that can't do banking or is not in the country anymore because they are exiting with their talent. And it's something that everybody here in Africa is experiencing. And it is exactly what that's why I want to comment on your words that you were using. It is a talent war. And you are talking about it firsthand with international companies that came into your environment and took the people that were so valuable within your organization and the skills that you needed there. I also, if it is okay with everybody, want to just make a comment about critical skills, something that you also mentioned, Margaret, and maybe you can take the conversation further, anyone on the panel. I think within your sector, within the banking sector, everything that needs to be done within the sector is critical skills, because finance skills or being able to be mathematical and think mathematically is a critical skill within the world, and it is your sector that has to deal with that, right? So every skill, technical skills, financial skills, mathematical skills, innovation, all of those skills are critical within your environment. And it's those skills that are honed from a very young age, right? Those skills that schooling brings to us, because it's skills that are built on every day, which bring us to the upskilling, reskilling, and I know I'm going purple, I will fidget with that as soon as I start talking, but upskilling, reskilling, recruiting, session that we are starting to have here. So perhaps if I can pose that back to you, in And as far as, and one of you mentioned it, and as far as your strategy towards how we are making sure that our employees are, and Anna, you spoke about it, that you had to reskill your employees, how the organization is overcoming, or not overcoming, is embracing the challenge of needed skills. Esther, I want to thank you also for talking about, and I'll read it out a little bit, where you answered the disruptive talent question for us in the caption, right? Where you said that talent and disruptive talent is very important, but we cannot forget, and I think I'm summarizing now, and if I'm not doing it correctly, please interrupt me. But we cannot forget that it's not just about innovation, it's about having that innovation become active within an organization. So, if I could pose the conversation towards the panel saying, upskilling, reskilling, what is this occupational shifts that we are talking about, or that you are experiencing? If someone would like to comment on that. Anyone? Or anything up to now?
Yeah, so this is
And Joyce.
Anna. Oh,
Yes, Anna.
So as I said earlier, we had to rethink what to do and how to ensure that we do not just let people go and just hire. So we had an option of making sure that if we had talent that we wanted to retain, because it's critical for the various roles, then we had to look at what are the gaps that they had in that role in order to support them to move towards the digital transformation we were looking to achieve. So there are some roles we opted to actually invest on training on the job and some off-site. And there are some which we had to literally just change our whole department and just rehire as we go along. So over the last 5 years, we actually have about 80% of new employees, just to ensure that we are actually towards the digital transformation on becoming a digital savvy bank. We had to create departments that would think futuristic, not just present, because technology keeps changing over time. And therefore, we had to look at this is where the industry is, where do we want to be in the next 5 years, and what do we need now that will enable us to quickly not just catch up, but also be ahead in the next 5 years. So some of the things is to look at the skill gaps that you had internally. I like what Margaret has talked about, the talent wars. I think something about the younger generation is that they are quick movers. And that means also the issue of retention as HR professions then becomes a challenge in terms of how do we ensure that the critical skills that you have invested in, or the people who you've put so much emphasis on to ensure that their skill set is what you need for the organization, then stick with you. So a bit of it would require you paying some higher dollars just to ensure that you actually get that critical focus towards retaining them in the meantime for a particular time period, so that they are not so easy for them to just move. So you look at benefits that you can give beyond salaries, for example. Apart from the flexible hours, are there other benefits they're looking for that would, make it a bit harder for them to just move? For example, we've been in the housing space for a while now. We are currently in the front line in the affordable housing space. Can we use that to, enlighten them to know that they can actually get some extra dollars just in the affordable housing, or even get some houses that they can actually own even as they continue working, because that becomes part of the extra benefits they can get, rather than just coming to work and just delivering on some particular target. They need to know that there's something more they can benefit from the employers beyond just the work, so that they have something to hold them towards the particular role. So one of the things that the HR department has had to do is think wider beyond just the normal benefits that they have towards retaining especially the top talent. The other thing is to create a pool, because now we know they will move fast. Therefore, you had to create a pool that in case they move, then you have someone in to step in to some roles. So you have people who are able to run different roles in case one or two are not in. So just to make sure that there's a pool of talent in the various capacities, especially on the critical areas that you need the bank to be able to be functional. So we've also created a bit of a pool of resources in the various through either internship programs. We partner with some of the universities to just make sure we have a pool of interns that we support and work with, especially on the business side, either to do research, either to do some of the programs we want support on. That way, we are also able to work with them to ensure that we get fresh graduates who are able to bring new ideas to the way we do banking and provide services to our client. The other bit is trying to come up with tools. When I talk about productivity, you look at tools that can support some of the segment. To date, I'm sure there are institutions that are capable of, I'm sure if you go to the West, banking, I mean, so much of it is digital. But if you come to Kenya, as much as we talk about digital, most of it is still not digitized. I think maybe from Margaret's side, they've moved faster than the banking side. The fintechs have moved faster than the banking side. So you will find some of the technology currently being employed by banks is still not catching up with the fintechs. So very capital intensive investments have you, as a bank, we have to think about some of the investment that we need to put in systems and processes and provide tools that can enable our employees, be able to still continue being productive even when offsite or when still working in the various segments. So you find, for example, if you're dealing with people in the IT department, it's very easy for them to work from home or the bank support side because they're not front facing. But if you have relationship managers and people serving front face, then you need them to actually be sometimes physically present, because as Kenyans, we still have that culture that for me, if I want to borrow a loan, I still want someone who I can talk to, ask several questions before I make up my mind. And technology, maybe from the customer service side, the online, the phone, we don't feel like the service will come through. So we still have a bit of those who are already accepting to move on the digital space, and there are those who still feel that the service needs to be a brick and mortar. So diversity in terms of service delivery, looking at the resources scope, looking at the capital investments that we need to do just to make sure we are up to date with the market, providing products. For example, business banking, and most of the businesses currently, you find most of their solutions are not provided for on digital platforms. For the people who are employed, most of the processes and products and services actually on the digital platform. So the business banking is still a space of improvement, both for the banks and fintechs. I think there's so much investment that still needs to be done to be able to serve businesses, corporates, large enterprises in the digital space. But that's where we're headed, and I think there's so much that is still coming forward. So what I would say is investment in tools just to monitor productivity or off the physical normal, you've reported in the morning, you have to sign off, just to create tools that measure productivity off the curve. Also looking at retaining talent. So it means changing policies, adopting more flexible policies that are adaptable to change as the environment becomes more diverse, has also been part of the ways we've been trying to look at how do you ensure that people deliver their goals on a digital space, not just allowing them to be physically present in the office has been a place that as a bank we've been keen on. So much yet to learn from others, still evolving. But I think it's a place where we are all excited to be in, because
Yes.
We can come up with everyday learning and turn our policies to be able to become more robust, to adaptable to change. So
Thank you very much. Thanks, Anna. That was a lot that we can link to there. Joyce, you also wanted to link or wanted to answer the question, and I see that we have a very active participatory group that registered for the program as well. So I'm very grateful for the Margarets and Esther who are answering their questions, but I would really like to share some of that with you as well. So Joyce, you wanted to add to that, what does benefit look like, the rephrasing benefits within the environment from your perspective within your fast-growing company?
All right. For me, I would say in terms of learning.
Joyce, Joyce,
Yes,
if you could just repeat your repeat your last sentence. You ran away. It blocked, or was it just me? We didn't hear your introduction. So just start over again. Thank you.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now clearly.
Yes.
Fantastic. So for me, I would comment in terms of just ensuring, how we ensure that our staff are well trained and are skilled, not even just trained, because training is one thing and skill is another thing. Just ensuring that they have the skills for the future and the now. And I would say, or rather, our approach at Machoke, for example, would be having enriched roles, as opposed to having, for example, you have someone who just does admin work and that's the end of their role. Ensuring that they have exposure to different aspects within the organization so that they are able to give value not just within their role in as much as they are specializing, that they are, for example, they have their role within the organization, but they are able to give value to other aspects of the organization. For example, ensuring that our staff understand, for example, the different aspects of different departments. So, for example, compliance and regulatory aspects are really important to us. But it's difficult for example, someone, say a compliance manager, to implement that without everyone understanding what their role is. If, for example, you have a salesperson who doesn't understand why we have different pricing, why you don't take a specific client through compliance, because, for example, they don't meet the KYC threshold or they don't have the required KYC documentation, why you take them to compliance and they'll send you back because no, we cannot proceed. So having everyone understand each other's role and how it impacts the business, having consistent conversations. Like for us, we have our Learning Wednesdays where we have conversations around different departments, their SOPs, how they do business, what for example, as a HR person, as someone from PNC, I'm able to gain perspective of, for example, why our products are priced the way they're priced, why we will not process this and this, why we offer, for example, there are countries that, for example, are blacklisted. Why if I have someone reach out to me from Russia, we will not process for them because of 1, 2, 3 reasons. So just ensuring that people, and this now brings in the learning culture within the organization, because then people are hungry to know, people are hungry for knowledge, encouraging people, for example, to take trainings, to just be up to date with the trends, because we are in a very vibrant and dynamic and changing space. So if we don't stay ahead, then we are not able to provide the simple, seamless, secure service that we claim to provide to our clients. We will not be able to offer customer-centric services to our clients if we are not up to date. So in as much as there's the hardcore, the certification kind of training, there's also an importance, similar importance is to be placed on people just being up to date with the business, understanding the business, understanding how their role impacts the business, the role they play, and just encouraging people to consistently learn, to regularly learn and improve where they are. I know there was a question on disruptive talent, and I think Esther answered it on the chat, but I also like to just add that in a space where there is a lot of innovation, you have to, I mean, where innovation is needed. If you do not innovate, then you die. If you do not innovate, then you're not able to offer your clients the solutions that they need. So there is a space for disruptive talent, but it is important for ownership, because if you have people who are able to see different ways of solving problems, they are able to see they're not stuck on the mainstream or the traditional way of doing things, but the solutions they are offering are not in line with the vision of the organization or with where the organization wants to go or where it is or the bottom line of the organization, then there is a disconnect. So and one of the ways that we really work on this, especially at reshaping, is we have regular we call them all hands meetings, where we are able to share business updates. So, for example, the SMT team will share, and the CEO and the C-suites will be able to share what's happening in the business, where are we, what solutions are we working at. We'll be able to talk about what challenges are you facing, for example, in your unit. How have you been able to innovate around that? Reducing the bureaucracy in decision making helps encourage people to be innovative, but also ensuring that the innovation is in line. Because if you own the vision, then you're able to innovate with an understanding of and an appreciation of what the business is about and what you're doing. Yes, I think I will stop there.
Thank you, Joyce. I think you've touched and linked very much to what Anna was saying there as well. And you touched on learning cultures, and you touched on or started telling us about the strategies and technologies and things that you within your environment put into place. I love this Learning Wednesdays that allows your people to learn from one another and to allow that they know what one another is doing. And productivity, as far as productivity is concerned, that's baseline, right? Because you're making sure that everyone is doing what they should be doing by knowing what one another is doing and knowing where the best talent within the environment is to do what needs to be done, which is best for the clients that you are served, right? So thank you very much for that. And it also links to a question that Margaret beautifully answered to Mr. Eric, who asked about strategies and technologies being recommended by you to ensure this transition towards automation in banking. And Margaret, you spoke about change management plan. Maybe if you just want to give us your feedback on that or what you have said. And it's also linked to what Anna said and very much linked to what Joyce has given us practical examples about. So Margaret, if you just want to tell everyone who maybe the live streamers don't have access to the answer that you gave. So if you would like to talk about that online as well.
Okay, so I know change management can be a bit, one of those words that is just thrown. But the reason I really prefer asking that as HR and even as the whole organization, regardless of your role, to really understand it is because it helps you to think about even the list of things that you are not thinking about during a change. And right now there's a lot of change with digitization, with everything that is changing within organizations, automation. So when there's no change that just finds us, we plan, we say that in this function we are automating, or it's a bank that now this integration has to be done. Now, most of the time what you'll find is that the change itself is very well planned, but the people aspect is left out. The impact that change has on the people is left out. Hence, for me, the change management plan from a people perspective become very critical, because you will know what impact the staff are expecting at what point and what you're going to be doing. You'll also know who are the detractors or who needs to be communicated to so that the change is successful. Now with that, then you're able to support the change from a people perspective and also, of course, get successful from a system or process perspective. Hence, insisting on the change management. I think from a talent perspective, it's critical for us to have a clear talent strategy. Again, I'm not sure whether it was Anna or Joyce who spoke about. So what do? You have automated everything. and now you have a pool of people who you do not know. Do I let them go? Do I reskill them and all that? So your talent strategy is going to support you to understand which skills are you going to build, because out of those people who say their work has been automated, we start supporting them through upskilling to different roles, and we start knowing, where they can fit in the organization as much as possible. Then of course you will know what to buy, and the talent strategy insist on making sure as much as possible you buy the skills that you do not have in the organization. You buy your critical skills or capabilities that you require for the future, or for the game changer for your business. And then of course there is what you will borrow. Now, depending on the kind of organization that you have, you could have like branches or your multi-country, so that way you're able to borrow either from within the organization or from another country, because that skill is in another country that you need it. So for example, in our case, I could have, or I have very strong people who do data science in South Africa. I'm able to borrow those to support either in any of our markets, or to come and whether it's support from day-to-day learning of the new teams that we're hiring. Of course, that also, the other thing that the talent strategy allows you with is to know which skills you can outsource or partner. So you don't necessarily need to own everything. So you can outsource, you can partner with other organizations to get those skills in, or to get that service from the organization. So that's one of them. But I think the other thing I need to mention is, because of the changes that are happening in the organization, as HR, we also need to relook at our HR policies. Before, we probably didn't have, or very few organizations had a policy that accommodated hybrid ways of working, even say working out of the country for whatever period. And there are laws that allow for that. Say you'll find some companies allow for 20, you can work out of the country for 20 days, but the law already allows for that, which you can accommodate also in your policies. And many other things that you just need to look within your policies to make sure that they support you. I think there's someone in the group that had talked about mental and how do we support that. Again, it's employee wellness programs. There's a lot of changes that are coming. One of the things that we have done in M-Pesa Africa is being a joint venture. We were coming from two heavy cultures, and the team was feeling that they now need to have an identity. So we've gone through a culture transformation journey of defining how do we show up to our customers as M-Pesa Africa. We just launched our culture, and one of the things, or one value that we stand for, is being humane, meaning that we treat each other with respect, with transparency, and also support the well-being of each other. But then the one thing that I've really asked the teams to do is, from a wellness perspective, I think you'll find a lot of the time HR has done quite a bit. You've agreed with your insurance, you have the mental talks, you have all that. But it's also what happens within their teams, what happens within their functions, that also will support. And no one stops you to say that we will have a day that we just, go for a walk as a team. We will check on each other. When you're starting a meeting, can you just find out where, you just don't start, where are the numbers? Just check on each other and say, how was your weekend? It just takes a few minutes, but it brings humanity in the organization. So that's a few.
Thank you very much, Margaret. And you typed your answer there very sufficiently for those who are registered on and can see the Q&A and the answers typed by the panelists. Thank you very much for that. But it boils down to succession, talent, to mentorship. Esther, you mentioned mentorship and the importance thereof. I think mentorship is becoming more and more relevant within the environment that we are, because there is a responsibility from experts like you on how do you How do you hand over all of the skills and knowledge that you do have, the experience that taught you what you know, and how you know how to do what you need to do. I see Bhupesh has his hand up, and I also see that Anna indicated that she would like to answer Zayed Appeal's question live. Esther, thank you very much also for typing your answer in, and I will. It went out of my screen, but Bhupesh, your hand is up, and then Anna, if you would like to answer the question. Bhupesh?
All right.
Sorry. Yes, Bhupesh, you can proceed.
Sure. All right. So that's just. So I mean, to begin with, one of the leading HR consulting firms, they were talking about, and I just like to congratulate the panelists. 3 of the top areas that they mentioned, which is going to be the key for the banking sector, is this constant upselling, agility, and change management. And I'm so happy that we already have been talking about it with the rapid movement in the banking sector, the constant digitalization, constant pressure in terms of marrying the older employees, then the millennials, then the Gen Zs, and it just suddenly has become an amalgamation of so many values, so many problems, and then despite even in the same sector, Anna talked about work from home productivity. Joyce talked about regulation and policies are a challenge. Margaret talked about changing the pays and benefits to make sure the talents are retained. And I'm just amazed to see how versatile within a small industry or a big industry it can be. It's the same set of challenges. But then I still feel constant upskilling, agility, and change management still continues to be the key to success to a lot of these things. And I would like to end with a question for the HR that one of our fellow from the banking industry has asked, that in terms of constant upskilling, which is the most difficult area for you? Leadership, functional, behavioral, or critical skills? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bhupesh. And I also just want to add to what you were saying. I think everything what the panel is bringing together here, I'm going to ask you a question now, but everything that the panel is putting together now is just emphasizing the words human capital or the human asset of an organization, which a lot of people forget, how much we need to invest in the human capital within our organization. So I also like, Esther, and it links to what you had to say, one of the questions was, why is that most CEOs in techie companies aren't from technical background, but social sciences or marketing? Esther, your answer was spot on. And a CEO does not necessarily have to be technical, but they need to understand the business because their role is strategic. They, however, need to be technical managers, and they run with the strategy and the leadership. That is wonderful. Former or from the acting CEO, Esther, wonderful advice to young people. I think it is so easy to get sidetracked by if I want to be a CEO, I have to know everything. No, you want to be a CEO, and maybe that links to your question, Bhupesh. You must know how to lead. You must know how to be able to change, and you have the critical skills of being agile towards what the company and the customer need. So that I think is phenomenal. So thank you very much for answering that question online, Esther. I don't know if you want to add to that, and then Anna, I will give you the opportunity to answer the question online that you said you would like to answer. Esther, would you like to say something about that?
Yes, thank you. The main challenge is, and I've seen a question about why CEOs are not, they don't, you find a CEO belongs, for this organization is not trained in that field. The reality is, as a CEO, there are so many things that you need to deal with, and you have so many departments, so you cannot be technical on everything. Your role needs to be leadership. You need to drive the business through your managers, and then of course the managers drive the business through their teams. So for you, you need to be strategic, give the vision, and show them the mission that they need to follow. Ensure you enforce the core values, but then if you don't get a team which is technical, which is supporting you, then as a leader you fail. So you need to ensure that your lieutenants, the people that are right below you, ensure you get the best. Then they brief you on what is happening. Your role is purely leadership. If you run into being technical, then you get into the conflict of doing what your managers are doing, and they feel like you are micromanaging them. Thank you.
That's very true. And what is that? I saw a reel the other day, which is all about don't be afraid to be the person in the room who asks the most questions. Because that's very important, to understanding where your employees are, to understanding what is happening, to understanding where we are within the field, within the environment that we are. Anna, you asked, and I think it links to what we are saying, if you could answer this question from Isaiah. At what stage in a career should one invest in technical skills, and at what point should one focus on soft skills? Is it possible for a non-technical manager head and to manage a technical team? I think Esther started answering the question, but maybe the first part of the question, Anna, at what time should you invest in technical and what time should you invest in soft skills? You are putting your foot in it, Anna. That's a much more difficult question to answer, but we cannot wait to hear your answer. Thanks, Anna.
Yeah. Thank you, Linda. So to Opio, technical skills for me, okay, depends also with the job, maybe. There are some jobs that require you to keep up the technical skills like IT. If you're a doctor, for example, and you're in a hospital, then again, you have to upscale your skills over a period of time. So if it's in the banking industry, depending with the department you're in, some of the departments would require you to continually invest in some of these technical skills. If you offer, for example, bank support, back-end support, then it means you have to understand, for example, currently in Kenya, we had an incidence of hacking, which became a national disaster for that matter. And I think some banks were actually affected. And therefore, it means if you're in that department where we provide technical support to ensure that bank systems are protected, investments, the integrity of the systems needs to be continually, then it means your skill, you might need to upscale either continuously or after every so while. So depending on your role, some don't require you to have so much technical skills. Some do require you to continually invest in that. For soft skills, some of these, for you to even pass an interview, you need to have some soft skills. So I think this is something you need to, I think in some of the university offer, for example, communication skills as a course that you need to partake as mandatory courses. So that tells you that soft skills are actually mandatory for even starting at hiring level, even before you get the job. So these are skills you have to learn and continuously improve, depending on the level of, if you go up the ladder and you become a leader, then these are the skills that speak louder than the technical skills, and therefore it goes to answering the question earlier in terms of why is it that you would find a leader who is not tech savvy and is leading a team of experts in their space. So as you go up the ladder, then the soft skills become more relevant than the technical skills, and therefore that question then plays into answering that too. So depending on the role that you play in the job that you play in, some of the technical skills might require you to continually invest in, even upfront. For example, if you're doing engineering because of the nature of your work, then it means before you get the job, you need to have the skills. And then as you continue working on it, then it means you need to invest on it. So depending on the role, there's some that will require to continually invest in your skills, upscaling them to the current level of skill set. But when it comes to soft skill, you have to have it at any level of employment in the banking industry, either at the entry level or at the leadership level. So as you go up, the soft skills become more of the skills that you need to have compared to the technical. In the stages when you're starting your career, the technical skills then become more important. So depending on that, then you know where to invest in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I think it's very important that we, to me, thought that there's a differentiation between what is called hard and soft skills, because I think sometimes the soft skills are harder to implement and do than, you know, being an expert in a what would be referred to as a hard skill. So it's such a I don't know. It's such a difficult concept for me to understand. I'm grateful for the fact that we're talking about technical skills and what is softer skills. But I think, you know, having the emotional intelligence and having the leadership skills to manage people that's struggling, that's surviving, that is in economies that is not world economies. People who are doing their absolute very best and making sure that they are giving to the company exactly by just holding on to their jobs. Some now means that we need to work harder at it, and everyone on the panel knows what I'm talking about. And which brings me, unfortunately, as you can see, our time is running out. But I think, you know, you could never, and that is something I think Joyce, you said it, the learning culture, continuous learning culture within environment is essential, because that is what makes what makes growth possible. You know, and that which is not growing is dying. If a plant is not growing, it's done. So, Margaret, I see your hand up, and just I'm going to round about everybody again in asking you to give us your highlight or what you want the listeners, the audience members, those who are listening to us live streaming, a nugget. What you believe is the final nugget that you would want people within your industry, that you would want people to leave with this afternoon, or to keep thinking about, or to continue to talk about. Margaret, your hand was up. Maybe you can finish the conversation that we had about hard and soft skills, right? And then if you could also give us your final nugget before we have to, believe it or not, close the conversation. I think we need to have a continued one. Rupesh, we'll have to talk about that one. Margaret, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say something about, there's someone who has asked, I think two people have asked something on mental and work-life balance. And I just wanted to talk through it and just say, and some of it is just my own opinion, through experience, is I think what we should look more for is work-life integration, because the balance is quite, even in your own life, you may not get that balance with everything that is happening. So it's how you integrate. And of course, depending on where you are, I think for some, you know, the working from home has helped with the integration. Some it has even messed it because of course you end up working long hours. I was connecting that to the whole discussion of, you know, the soft skills and the behavioral skills that we need. And we keep saying that, you know, employees don't leave organization, they leave managers. So some of those soft skills are the ones that are supporting you to help retain, to help bring in a better work-life organization. So I think the communication that someone was bringing in is that the techie companies are really, you know, pushing people and creating a very harsh, you know, from a work-life perspective. But I think it can happen anywhere. I've seen people who have, you know, very long working hours, and they're the most excited and most, you know, they are actually enjoying what they are doing. You even have to send them away sometimes because of how excited they are with their job. The question is, what is different? It's the environment, it's their leaders, it's everything, because they can push it to that level, but when they need to rest, or when they are done, or when it's, you know, the flexibility in their ways of working, the manager actually allows for the same. So they're pushing because there is a need, but you're also allowing for certain flexibility. So it's the ways of working we integrate within the organization that help the organization. I think you had mentioned that we just say something to close. I think for me, HR needs to change with the changes that are happening in the macro, in the micro. One, to support with and be agile enough to to make the changes as and when, whether it's from an organization perspective, the structures, the operating model. We need to, and not just changing other functions, even us, the way we are structured as HR, we need to be able to be flexible, to change and adopt, because we don't exist in isolation. We exist and we have to link it to the business strategy. The other thing is, for sure, we need to rethink our talent strategies. We need to rethink the employee experience and well-being that we bring in, so that we support the organization in delivering its mission. And for all of us, I think, as humans, because organizations exist, but we are the ones who work in those organizations, we need to bring in a change of mindset, a growth mindset. We need to be agile enough, and we need to give the best in what we do. And of course, upskill ourselves so that we're able to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Margaret. That's very valuable. Yeah, not practice what we preach is very important. Yeah, we need to upskill ourselves as well. Who would like to? Joyce, can I ask you for your final thought, please? Joyce, you are.
Yes, Linda. Before I give the final thought, someone had asked whether we might be ready for a gig economy with the Gen Zs.
Yes.
And I will say, absolutely. Times are changing. Things are changing. We have to really embrace the times that we are in. Anna talked about how to measure productivity, and I think that's where the answer lies. If you embrace data and you're measuring productivity from a data-driven point of view, then it's very possible to actually have a business, for example, thrive on the gig economy. Whether it's the giggers or whether it's the companies, all can thrive so long as, for example, production parameters are clearly defined, and we are able to agree that, yes, you're working for 2 hours, but this is what I expect from you, and it is very clear, and the metrics of measuring are clear and data-driven. So I believe it's something that is very possible. It's where we are going anyway. And so if you are, for example, a Gen Z who is looking to get into the workspace, within the gig economy, then absolutely go for it. So long as you can provide value to the employer, you're able to provide your value and you're able to agree on the metrics for productivity, then I think it's absolutely doable. For my parting shot, I would say embrace learning, because without learning, you're not going to grow. You will find yourself in a static space. You'll find yourself not able to keep up with the trends. And learning is not entirely classroom-led. It's not the traditional classroom learning. It means every day you're learning something new, you're learning something in the field, you're learning something in the industry you work with, or you work in, you're learning something about a different function within the organization, you're learning something. So long as you're learning, learning never ends. Embrace learning. That's it.
Thank you very much, Joyce. I reiterate that. Learning is growth. I love what you said there. Ma'am Estelle, if you would like to give your final thought, please.
Yes, thank you. I think I'll start with something that I forgot and I don't remember any of us mentioning. Yeah. One of the challenges, whether you are in the banking sector or whichever sector at the moment, is cyber security and cyber crime. And, nowadays, the fear is not finding a hooded man walking to the banking hall and tell all of you to lie down. Nowadays, it is happening as you watch your screen and you don't know what has hit you. So I think that is one of the key things that we need to think about. But my parting shot technology is here to stay. We are the ones who have to constantly keep changing and keep reinventing ourselves. We have to constantly keep learn new skills. And as technology changes, we have to change with the technology, because one of the issues and I'm happy there's someone from M-Pesa here, one of the only way to avoid being hit is ensure that you remain on the newest technology. And the other thing is HR, I think in as much as many departments have changed, HR is still lagging a bit behind, probably because of the complexity of what they have to deal with. But I think HR have a lot of work to move with the changing technology and generations as they change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. That's very valuable. Irene, I just want to check and see if you're mute. I mean, you've been part of this whole conversation without converting. Nothing yet. Oh, Irene, I'll give you a call afterwards. Anna, if you would like to give us your final thoughts, please.
Thank you, Linda. So I think the only thing that is constant is change. And if we do not change, then we die. And I think that goes for whether as an individual, if you do not upskill yourself, make sure that your skill set with the industry set are aligned. Whether you're a HR practitioner trying to come up with policies that are relevant to the current generation, or you're an organization as a bank, you have to understand the changing times and come up with solutions or adapt to that change and make sure that you think futuristic. So as I think my parting shot was coming from Winston Churchill, that to improve is to change and to be perfect is to change often. So as banking practitioners and as HR practitioners, we have to oftenly keep changing. And as a person, then you have to make sure that you keep up with the change that is happening to make sure that you're relevant and your skill set are actually relevant to the industry and the times that you're in. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you very much, Anna. I love that quote from Winston Churchill. There's so much value to it. Ladies and gents, in summary, also just want to say that a learning culture and getting change, or making sure that change is at the center of what we do, and being agile enough for that change to be relevant and to add value within your environment, within your workforce, is an essential skill. It's an essential, what would be called a soft skill, but it's the skill that you need in order to implement your hard skills. Being able to roll with the punches, being able to roll with the changes. And I think within your sector and your environment, and that's what your experience taught us today, it has been something that you have been living with and dealing with and being part of your narrative for so long, that you talk over it without even realizing the significance of what you've been through and what you've added and how you have dealt with this within your environment. So we would like to thank you for your participation, for your candidness, for your openness, sharing your experience and allowing and answering the questions of our participants so beautifully, and giving them the opportunity to learn from you. Rupesh, I'm going to give you the final 20 seconds to say thank you to our panelists. I know I'm stealing 20 seconds of your time, ladies, but if you could please just say thank you on behalf of Regenesis for the panelists.
Sure. Thank you so much, Linda, and I surely would like to thank everyone on the panel, and trust me, I've got a couple of messages on my phone thanking us for bringing such valuable discussions available for hundreds and thousands of people. So I walk out of this discussion with embracing change, be agile, and be a lifelong learner. And the mark of a good conversation is when you lose the track of time. And indeed, that's what happened here. There's so much more, me and Linda wanted to discuss, harmonization, consolidation, mergers, acquisitions, what challenges it brings to you on the table, leadership development, etc., etc. So I think we really look forward to, meet all of you in person or just like on the same platform to maybe, host another session at some point in time to, continue this, right? And really thankful from all our listeners, learners in the numbers of hundreds and thousands who've been listening to you. And a big thanks from Regenesis Business School for taking time out and doing this for the industry, for the young learners. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a gorgeous afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.